Welcome to Today with Dr. J, where I give you the guidance and tools to figure out what works for you in your recovery. My name is Dr. D. Jaffe, and I'm here to help you live happier, more purposefully, and without limits. I tend to ruffle some feathers for doing this, but I do away with the notion of once an addict, always an addict, because I believe that anyone can beat their addiction with the right mindset, tools, support, and education. Nothing can stand in your way to success. You don't have to commit to anything but action. You don't have to have anything but motivation. Whether you want to quit, drink less, or simply become more mindful around mental health and addiction, I'm here for you. The topic is centered around some of the reactions that I got, and I get historically, but I got in particular around the reel we just released for Ignited. And I don't know how many of you are on social media, but the reel essentially was me having a low alcohol kombucha saying, wait, you're saying I can recover from my alcohol addiction and still drink in moderation. And as usual, when we go at people like that, we get pretty strong opinions. And I'm okay with it. I think there's a lot left to be desired in the way we treat alcohol and addiction in general now. But I wanted to bring it up here in particular because every time this comes up for me, I realize either you get the same sort of pushback when you tell people you want to deal with your fill in your addiction label, but you're not ready to quit or you don't want to quit. Either you get the pushback or you don't talk to people about what you really want to do because you're so foreshadowing the pushback and the shame and the kind of what the hell is wrong with you language that you'll end up getting. The only thing you really are quote unquote allowed to say to people if you realize you have a problem, let's say with alcohol, is I'm going to quit. I'm never going to drink again. It's like, unless you say that, they're looking at you like, oh, you're half-assing this stuff again. Great. Thanks a lot for even talking to me. Right. And so I get this pushback all the time. And there are two main things that I have to flip them for you, because if you hold on to that way of looking at your attempts, it's going to hamstring you. It's going to make it harder for you to feel good about the things that are showing you that you're walking the right way, which will then make it more likely that you'll get unmotivated, discouraged, that you'll feel ashamed or like a failure. And we all know here over and over, we talk about this. Every time those feelings hit us, it makes it that much harder to succeed. And something that, let's be honest, is not the easiest thing to succeed with already, because we're all coming with so much baggage and so much weight that we're trying to take off of ourselves. It's just adding to it does nothing good for us. And so the 2 points, and some of you may already know this, some of you may not. If you've been around me for a while, the information might at least be the same, but we can have a different discussion about it here today, is this. Look, the people out there can tell us that quitting is the only way to move forward all they want. But there are two things that they have to realize. First of all, they're not the ones dealing with the problem. So that's nice, right? That's a little bit like telling somebody who's got dyslexia, come on, just read better. Well, cool. Thank you for those of you who don't have a problem reading, telling me what I'm supposed to do. Amen. Hallelujah to that. I mean, the world has had many, many difficulties of people who have no understanding of an actual problem telling everybody else what they need to do. So that's for a huge portion of the people who speak up. And then the second portion of people are people who've gone through recovery themselves. And most of the time when people speak up, it's people who've only been able to find recovery themselves through complete abstinence, which is great for those people. But they make up a tiny percentage of the people who struggle with drugs and alcohol. A tiny percentage, like 5, 7. If you get incredibly generous with the numbers, maybe up to 15% of the people who struggle with drugs and alcohol at full quote unquote addiction level, which used to be called dependence in the substance use disorder category. Only about up to 15% of people find long-term recovery that way. And then those people look back and they make the mistake of thinking, well, this worked for me. This must be the way for everybody else. Now, I get it. But the reality, let's just be really, really clear. The reality of alcohol use problems is that about 75 to 80% of people who struggle with alcohol at one point in their life struggle for a relatively limited amount of time and then end up not struggling again. About 80% of people. Now, some of them go completely abstinent and some of them go back to drinking in moderation, but the statistics are very different when you look at everybody who struggles with alcohol versus the people who end up successful in AA. So I just want to be really clear about that difference. And the difference is this. once somebody has tried a bunch of things, and they haven't tried what we're doing, but they tried a bunch of things in moderation, didn't work for them, and they commit to lifelong abstinence, abstinence is nice. It is a very safe option about drinking. It's very safe, especially around heavier drug use, right? It's a safe option. It feels safe to everybody around. Why? Because your odds of overdose go down. Your odds of drinking and driving go down. Your odds of blacking out go to zero if you don't drink at all. I get it. But here's what they all forget is 90% of people who need help will absolutely not touch that version of recovery with a 10-foot pole. And the mistake that everybody keeps making, and the mistake that I think a lot of people have probably made for you in your life, is that those other 90% of people are failures, that they screw up. But that's not true. Most of them do really well. It's just they never recover in AA. And so the traditional addiction system doesn't see them. And because they don't see them, they just make these conjectures about what happens in their life. They just assume, well, they must be like us. But there's nothing that says that you have to be like them. And there are people in this room right now who've both experienced themselves substantial reductions in their use to the point of essentially close to having no problem with the substance that they came in here for. One of the major problems being the shame around the fact that they're not fully abstinent. Like that's one of the last remaining pieces. And then the vast majority of people who've been here long enough, like at least a few months, have had this experience, which is reductions and then return a little bit and then reductions and then go back. And to me, that's life. Like what we have to do is we have to get better at controlling the ups and controlling the downs and creating kind of a new normal for ourselves in life. And that's the place to me where the all or nothing, black and white failure success thinking completely destroys our chances. And I've said this a million times. I will say it a million times more, but there's nowhere else in life that I know where you can have massive improvement and be considered a failure, right? One of my sons struggles in math a little bit. And the idea that if he got like an 8 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, I would consider that the same as a 0 out of 10 on a quiz or an assignment is inconceivable. I would never say to him, well, you didn't get a 10, so you obviously failed this test. That would never come out of my mouth. But so many people sitting here right now have had exactly that experience happen. And to think that that does anything but destroy your ability and your belief in yourself to be able to get to your ultimate goal, even if your ultimate goal is abstinence, right? Some people, a very small number of people, and around alcohol, it's actually unsafe, go from drinking a fifth a day to drinking nothing daily. It happens, but we're absolutely talking single digit numbers. So for everybody else, that's not the story, which means there were moderation steps along the way. There were reduction steps along the way. And what I want each and every one of you to hold like at the deepest core level of your being is a day where you drank one drink less than you normally drank is success. The day you drank half a drink less than what you normally drink is a success. And the reason I can prove that to you is if you do that a handful of times in your life, you will get where you're going anyway. But if you think to yourself, oh shit, I normally drink 12 drinks and today I drank 10, so I'm still a failure. Getting to 9 doesn't feel like success. And getting to 8 doesn't feel like success. And 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1 and 0. But if you're going to have to make your way through that journey, the first place you have to do the work is in here, because everybody else can talk shit all they want. It's not about them. It's about you getting to a life that you are satisfied. Anything that helps with the drinking and helps you feel better is working. Put that in your quiver and keep walking forward. It doesn't have to get you to abstinence. It just has to get you to better. And you do that step by step by step, life will improve. And at some point, it may improve so much you're drinking moderately and you're happy and life is good and you don't need to go cut down. Some of the people on here are what I like to call them ignited abstinent. And that's like, I mostly don't drink, but then sometimes I'll go somewhere, I'll have an event or I'll go to a dinner and I'll have a glass of wine. I love that version of abstinent. That's great. Like I know people that have no alcohol in their house. They just don't drink at home. And then if they go out to dinner, they might have a drink. So you have to figure out the system that works for you. And just remember that every time somebody out there, some professionals are an anomaly in this context, but most of the time, the people out there, what they're trying to tell you to do is what worked for them. But you're not the same person. You have a completely different life, a completely different experience, a completely different problem than they had. Genetics are different. Your trauma experience is different. Your psychology is different. Your environmental influence around you right now is different. Find the thing that works for you and stick to your lane. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found the lessons helpful in your recovery. Click below to like, comment, and subscribe. Plus, if you want to find out more about the work that we do at Ignited, visit IGNTD.com for more.